This is the High School Football America podcast for July the 16th, 2019. I'm Jeff Fisher. Tonight on the podcast, after spending a couple of days out in Southern California, we're heading to the great state of Alabama, where high school football is getting better and better and better. Our algorithm has proven it time and time again over the last couple of seasons, and we're going to talk a little Hewitt-Trussville Husky football here tonight on the podcast. Josh Floyd, the head coach there, and he's heading into his sixth year, and he's done a wonderful job after coming over from Arkansas there at Shiloh, and we've had him on the show many times before, and he joins us now to talk about the 2019 version of the Huskies. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Hey, thanks, Jeff, for having me. I appreciate it.
Always glad to have you on here, and I know, busy time of year, you're getting the juices flowing. Although, truly, and I haven't asked anybody this on the podcast, but remember when high school football used to be like, 4 months out of the year? It's now 365.
Yeah, that's not the case anymore. Not if you're going to be successful, anyway.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It's hard to do it like that anymore.
And tell us a little bit about what you guys do, when, the off season, and it isn't really the off season. We got passing tournaments, we got all these things. But why don't we talk a little bit about what you do there with the Huskies during once you put away the equipment, hopefully at a state championship game. What do you do to get yourself ready for fall camp?
Sure. Well, our off season, we obviously start that in January, and we feel like that's obviously the biggest part of our program here. And I think everybody's trying to do the same things, get a little bigger, faster, stronger. I think another thing that we try to take a lot of pride in and is really just the mental side of things, and try to grow our guys from a leadership standpoint, and not just on the field but off the field, whether that's trying to do some different things in the community with service projects and different things. I mean, so there's, all that goes into the fact that trying to build a team, and also just trying to help these guys out and help them to be, look outside themselves and try to be unselfish. And so, that heads us into this summer. And most weeks in the summer, we go 4 days a week right now. So that's what we do. And we're going to do definitely some time in the weight room. We're going to do some conditioning. And a big part of what we do offensively has to do with conditioning because of the style of the system that we play on offense. And so that's something we take great pride in. And then obviously we actually do real football, and we're not in pads or anything, but we at least can put helmets on and go through plays and adjustments and situations as much as we can. So, like you said, man, it's year round now, but that's what makes it fun. Obviously I feel like it's the greatest game in the world. So it's not a job to me. It's something we get to do and enjoy every single day.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's what I enjoy in the off season here, to talk to coaches who are just excited to get to the fall camps. Josh Floyd on the line, Hewitt-Trussville, outside of Birmingham, we'll call it. I guess that's the best way to describe where you guys are for people that know how to know a little geography, I guess, is the best part. And The Huskies have spent a good amount of time over the last couple of seasons in the High School Football America 100 algorithm rankings. This year, just a tick outside of the top 125. So you've got some talent back. I know you lost some talent, and let's talk about that, because I know one of the things that you've talked about over the years here with me is the fact that one of the job ones when you took over the program was to make sure you built that depth, because that's very, very important to a program to perform at the level you want to perform at. So tell me a little bit about what you lost and how that depth is coming along so that you don't have those down years on a regular basis.
Well, the depth is a big deal. I mean, this is 7A Alabama football, and in my opinion, I don't think it's any better anywhere else in the country. We're just going to have a lot of great teams, great players, great programs, and everybody knows this state football is very, very important. And that's what makes it fun to compete year in and year out. I think building depth is something that really starts at the middle school age, and that's where I feel like we're in a better spot than we have been in some areas there, because we've been here for a while now, and it's really something you can build that depth in the 7th and 8th grade. And that's something I harp on with our coaches all the time, is even our varsity guys. I mean, we try to pour into our middle school coaches and try to coach those kids up as much as we can, just because, the more that they know, the better they're going to be on both sides of the ball. And again, if you start doing that when they're in 10th grade, it's a little too late. But be able to do that, I mean, we're even involved in our youth football program here. I actually have 3 boys, and one's in middle school now, and the other 2 are playing youth football still. And so, I mean, we even get super involved in that. And it may not be exact plays or whatever, but it's about building at least somewhat the philosophy on offense and defense for sure. There, all those things help. But we lost some key guys, like you say. We actually have quite a few starters back, especially on offense. It's just the big name guys that a lot of people heard about last year and know about graduating. We had Paul Tyson, who had an incredible career here and really rewrote all the passing records here at our school, and signed with Alabama at quarterback. Pierce Quick, who was one of the top linemen in the entire country, signed with Alabama, and he was a guy that was a 4-year starter for us. So it's really hard to replace just that much, just Friday night game experience. And then, we had another guy, another receiver, Tavarius Johnson, was a guy that was just 50 yards shy, I think, of breaking the state record, had almost 1,700 yards receiving, and he signed with Auburn. So, I mean, when you look at those few guys on offense, I mean, we definitely lost some firepower. But, that being said, we do have a lot of guys back that started. We got some guys back, really excited about our backfield. We've got, we feel like some really big weapons back there. We obviously have a new quarterback will be a little bit different than the one we've had the past few years, but we're excited about what we have coming back.
Well, let's get some of the kids in there by name. You being the, I don't want to call you an old quarterback because that makes you sound old, but you are the old quarterback, so to speak. I know it's where your heart is, and you've always been a guy that not only has been able to throw the ball, but create some quarterbacks out there that do it. So who is going to be filling in those big shoes of Tyson?
Sure. We've been fortunate to have some great quarterbacks here, and that's, we try to coach them up as well as we can, obviously, but a lot of that comes from those guys just putting in the work and really believing in the system. And the 3 quarterbacks we've had when we've been here have all gone Division I. We've got a guy that's at Memphis. We've got Paul, who just went with Alabama, and our other guy, Zach Thomas, is at Appalachian State, he was the Sun Belt Offensive Player of the Year this past year as a redshirt sophomore. And so, we've been fortunate to have some really, really good quarterbacks come through here, and I think our next few years are going to be the same way. Seth Shelnut is a guy right now that's going to be a senior, and Seth's about 6'2", 210, runs in the low 4.6s, and is just a little bit more of a dual threat type kid. Paul was a little more of a drop back guy, had a big time arm, and can make every single throw. And so, Seth's a little bit different. Seth definitely has a live arm and can make a lot of throws. It's just a different kind of a player. He's a guy that makes plays with his feet. He's a guy that can, we'll get on the edge and he'll have a little more run pass option type situation. And we don't ever want to run our quarterback 15, 20 times a game necessarily, but we will run him enough to try to keep the defense honest. And I'm excited about working with him. Seth's had a great career here. He actually started for us on defense last year. So that's the only problem with moving him over. We're losing a starting DB there. But that tells you the kind of kid he was. He even played some linebacker last year. He's just a tough kid that, with Paul there last year, we just talked, me and him talked back in the spring last year and just said, man, hey, I don't want you standing by me the whole year on the sideline. You're a good enough player. And he's such a great competitor. And I think that really earns the respect of his teammates in a big time way. We have a couple other guys, Jackson Holland, who actually has a great chance to start at safety. He's a guy that can also play quarterback for us, had a really good JV season last year for our JV team. But again, he's kind of doing the same thing Seston. He's got a chance to start at safety right there. So he's going to do a really good job there for us. And then we have a kid named Cade Caruth, who's going to be a sophomore. He's about 6 foot, 190 pounds already. Led our freshman team. It's one of the best upcoming sophomore groups that we've had. Our freshman team went undefeated last year, and he had a big time year. And so Cade's another guy that's got a big future ahead. But one thing about all 3 of our guys is they're all pretty similar in their style, and so that makes it easy as far as just our system. We always try to adjust our system to our quarterback, and they're all pretty similar. So that allows us to have a little bit better depth this year. Yeah, all 3 of those spots.
And you've got, like you said, you lost one good wide receiver, but you had 2 last year. So let's talk a little bit about the wideouts, the guys he's going to be throwing to, and then we'll get to your running back.
No doubt. Zaylen Worsham is a guy that had he's a big time player for us. One of the best receivers in the country, and he's been this will be his third year to start for us, and had 87 receptions last year for over 1,000 yards, and he's a big time threat because he's so good in a one-on-one situation. He's probably as good as I've ever had as far as just route running, and he's a guy who can run. He's going to be a 4-5 guy, and he's going to beat some people deep. He did that last year several times, but what makes him unique and special is just his ability to get in and out of breaks. He's just really, really good in a one-on-one situation against the defense. So Zalen's a big-time weapon we have coming back. And we have another receiver back, Jameer Reese is his name. He started for us last year, and again, people don't know about him as much just because, you had two guys. There's only so many throws to go around. You had two different guys that had over 80 receptions last year. So Jameer didn't have quite as many, but I tell you, he had some big-time touchdowns. Some plays that really were clutch plays. And so he's a big target. Jameer's about 6'2", 185, a guy that can run and stretch the field. And he improved probably as much this summer as anybody I've ever had. Just 7-on-7. We went to a few different 7-on-7 tournaments like most people do. And it was really fun to watch him he just stepped up. Zalen's actually coming back from an injury that he had an off-season surgery, so Zalen's going to be fine in August. But it really forced us to kind of get some more guys ready, and it really allowed Jameer to kind of step up and do some big-time things for us there. We have another starting receiver right now, Amari Kelly is his name, and he's only going to be a sophomore. But Amari's already about 6'1", 170, and it only took him just a few plays in the spring game, and he already was picking up 3 or 4 Division I offers. So he's a guy that's only going to be a sophomore, but he's going to be a really, really big-time player for us. He has a really, really big future ahead. We're going to play the best guys. It doesn't matter to me if it's sophomore. We've had freshmen start. We're going to try to put the best 11 on the field. And, so Amari, even though he's young, he made some big-time plays in our spring game. He's a guy that can run the football as well, so we'll probably move him around different spots. But, we're excited about it. Again, we lost a big-time weapon there, but feel really good about what we have coming back.
And let me ask you this, Coach, and we're talking with Josh Floyd from Hewitt-Trussville tonight on the podcast. Let me ask you this, especially as that old quarterback that I've now dubbed you for the rest of the podcast, and the guy coaching quarterbacks, when you have a young man that doesn't have as much varsity experience because of what Paul Tyson did as a longtime starter there, how much does it help to have quality receivers like you have? Is that something that cuts down the learning curve, if you will, gets rid of some of the jitters? How do you view that?
Well, I think it definitely helps a lot. when you're throwing to, some of the better receivers. If you have a Division I offer, then you're one of the better receivers in the country. those things are hard to get. You know what I mean? And we've been fortunate to have some of those guys, but that's not, it's not really normal. So. I think we need to remember that those things are very hard to get. And so, I think definitely our quarterbacks, Seth, especially, I think they have a lot of confidence in those guys. And I think it helps a lot. Because when you can do different things, whether that's, the thing about Zalen, and really Amari, what he's shown too, he may take a 5-yard speed out and take it to the house. It may turn into a slant route, maybe 5-yard slant route, but it turns into a 50-yard touchdown. And again, that's confidence for a quarterback. We're a team that's going to take some shots downfield as well, and that's what we like to do. And so, fortunately, Seth can make those throws right now. And he proved that this summer. I think even 7-on-7, the 7-on-7 is, it's an interesting deal, and you can take it or leave it sometimes, and it doesn't always mean everything, but probably more than I've ever had as a coach, I saw more improvement for our guys this summer. And I think that what that means is just we had some youth, and we started out where we weren't doing as well as I would have liked, but it was a lot of fun to watch these guys grow over the summer. And, and we're still not finished with the summer. So, they're going to keep improving, but I saw our guys come a long, long way. And again, I think that's from just having some youth and inexperience. So I think the the quarterbacks, they've definitely got some big-time weapons to throw to.
Yeah, and we know you love to throw it around the yard, but when it's time to put it on the ground, you've got a young man in the backfield there that, only a junior too. Let's talk a little bit about what you have when it comes to toting the football.
Sure, yeah, we're definitely, I feel like that's a big strength of our team. If you ask me what was a big strength, I would definitely tell you our backfield, because, again, we have the ability to have a running quarterback this year, which gives you some threats. And then we've got a great backfield. I would put this backfield up against anybody in the state of Alabama. And, our Monty Goodwin's a guy that had over 1,400 yards last year, several touchdowns. One thing he's improved on is his receiving and being able to throw it to him out of the backfield. He's come a long way there. And, he's just a big-time weapon guy that he actually committed to Auburn this spring. He's only going to be a junior, but he's one of the best running backs in the country. Sean Jackson is a big-time player for us. He's a guy that played last year, had about 500 yards, rushing and receiving. But Sean's a totally different back than Armani. I think that's what makes him special. Sean's got Division I offer, so he's going to be a big-time player as well. But Sean's 5'9", 5'10", about 215, 218. Just a bowling ball and one of the strongest kids we have in our weight room. And so, you've got a guy like Armani that maybe the fastest kid that I've ever coached, probably is. And then you've got, just a guy like Sean. And Sean has some of the best hands on the team. And that's something with our backs, we love throwing the ball to our backs. And we're really a two-back system. So, both of us, not like one of those guys is going to be in the game. I mean, they're both going to be in the game. That's just how we run our offense. And so, the better we get at that, we'll be able to throw them the ball again, different ways. Our offense is all about getting the ball in the guy's hands out in space. And, whether that's running the football or whether that's throwing them a bubble screen or, something simple in the flats. I mean, that's just something that, I think, you mentioned the quarterback's confidence. I mean, those are things that are easy for the quarterback. But when you've got guys that can turn that 5-yard play into a 12, 15-yard game, then that's a huge weapon for you.
Josh Floyd on the line tonight, talking Hewitt-Trussville football, playing in one of the best regions in the country, and we'll talk about that a little bit on the back end after we get through all the kids here. But you mentioned Pierce Quick, the offensive tackle onto Alabama. That's a big hole to fill there. Tell me a little bit about, because all that talent you just talked about there doesn't do a darn thing if the quarterback's not protected, or there's not some holes there and all that other good stuff. So what's that line look like?
There's no doubt about it. I mean, it's all about up front, and I think especially the region that we play in. I mean, it's a physical region, and it doesn't matter how cute we get out there on the outside if we can't take care of business up front. And obviously, you lose Pierce. I mean, he was a devastating blocker, and it just was really, really a big weapon for us. But more than anything, like I mentioned, it was just about all the games he'd played. I mean, that guy started since he was a freshman. So, you just lose a lot of experience there. But we actually have 3 guys back that started most of the season. Logan Self, you got to start with him, and Jonathan Moore. Logan's a guy that actually committed to Troy a few months ago. Logan's a guy at 6'4", 280. Just a big-time weapon that can do different things. He's played every really position on the line. He can play center, guard, tackle. I think it's one thing the colleges loved about him. He's a guy that you can move around and do a lot of different things with. Jonathan Moore is a guy that started last year as well. He's a senior, and he'll probably be our starting center. That's probably where we'll start him at right now. And just a guy that's got a lot of experience. Jonathan's super smart. He's a guy that can make calls up front. He can tell people what to do. And, he was a big-time player for us. Had a great off season and has really done a great job getting bigger and stronger. Miller Malone was a guy that started some for us last year. He'll be a junior, and Miller's about 6'2", about 255, 260, and super strong kid, really athletic. So we're excited about him. Stephen Horsley's a guy that played a little bit of D-line for us last year. We kind of moved him back and forth, but had a really good offseason. He's got a great chance to start. Walker Van Horn is a guy that's a senior, just a program guy, a great kid that's put in a lot of work. I mean, Walker's 6'3", 295, so he gives us some size there. Riley Quick, you mentioned Pierce already a few times. Well, Pierce does have a little brother, and that's exciting for us because
not so little,
Riley's
probably, right?
No, not very little. No, so he's actually very, very similar to Pierce at this stage in his career. Riley's about 6'4", and he's probably about 235, 240 right now. But again, Pierce, that's kind of how Pierce was. By his senior year, he was 285 pounds. And so they're very, very similar players. They're different kids, different personalities and all that. But when you look at them on the field, they're pretty similar looking players. So, again, Riley's only going to be a sophomore. But, again, it took him one game, a spring game we had, and he had multiple Division I offers. So, people knew about him anyway because of his brother, but, he went out there and had to prove it. And so he's just going to keep getting better and better, though. I think he's really green, but he's a guy that's going to just get better and better. And, we're excited about what we have up front.
Talking with Josh Floyd tonight, Hewitt-Trussville outside of Birmingham and Alabama, one of the top teams in the state. We're going to talk about the toughness there. And before we flip over to the defense, Coach, a question kind of came to my mind as I was listening to you talk there. And as I said, you were a very good high school quarterback. You played under a guy that some people out there probably have heard of, Gus Malzahn, when he was a high school coach. Pretty darn good one, I would say, when it comes to offense. Yeah. And here's the question. Maybe it's too out there, but I'm still going to ask it to you anyway. You as a coach, when you were that young kid playing quarterback, right? And coach is telling you to do something. We're all kids, right? At some point, we're like, I don't know what that coach is talking about. How have you changed from those days to now when it comes to coaching? Not only the quarterbacks, but just offense in general, because I know that's where your love of the game is, right, on that offensive side of the football. And I don't know if that's too crazy of a question. I need to rephrase it, but I'm just saying, do you ever think back on, boy, I should have listened to Coach Malzahn back then. He was saying something, or I heard that and I carry it through, or I do it a little differently. Does that make sense?
Sure. Well, I think that there's times as a kid you just have to trust your coach, even if you don't understand it completely. And I don't think kids always do that. That's not the natural thing to do. Especially these days. Even as a the older you get, the more you feel like your parents taught you, and you listen to them a little bit more, and you're like, okay, that's why mom always said that, or that's why dad always said that.
Now it makes sense.
You don't understand it as a kid, and I think it's the same thing in the coaching world. A little bit, you start to figure that out and understand that. But the thing about that I think from a coaching standpoint is with our offense. Sometimes people think it's super complicated and it's all this, and in some ways it is, but we want to make things easy for the quarterback. And for our offense, we want our guys to go play. When we get to game day, we just want to let it rip. Let's go have a great time playing football. But I think that's, as coaches, sometimes we try to get too cute, and do too much and draw too much stuff up. And I always tell our staff, it does not matter what we know. We're not going to be the ones playing on Friday night. What matters is our guys out there, and matters them playing fast. I was actually reading a book the other day, and it was Bill Walsh, and he was talking about, he's a guy that I really look up to, and did look up to. Would have loved to have ever spent some time with him. Just talking football. I like reading all his stuff in the past, some of the books that he's written, or people have written books about him, but. One of his main things he talks about, when he was, really a West Coast offense kind of guy, it was all about the quarterback and giving the quarterback confidence. That's what it was all about. It wasn't about drawing up this many plays or having this big of a playbook or even having all the answers every single play. The quarterback's got to have confidence. And so that's really what I try to do. I try to build our guys' confidence over and over to where when they go out there on Friday night, they're just out there having a great time playing this great game. And it's our job as coaches to put them in the right position, to call the right plays, and to give them the best chance to be successful.
Considering you're in the backyard there together with Coach Malzahn at Auburn, where you are, you guys ever chatted up a little bit? You reminisce, or do you kind of compare notes and see what's new, and how does that relationship live today?
Sure. We obviously still talk to Coach Malzahn. We've sent a few kids to Auburn in the last few years, and so even on the recruiting side, we've talked some. This is really more of a friendship now, and we'll talk some ball, definitely. We'll talk a little bit here or there, offensive stuff. But really, when I'm the coach, we really just try to have a good time. And, we almost talk about the old days more than anything else, not that it was that long ago, but, it's really, I don't know. We have more fun just kind of talking about the good old times. I mean, there's something special about it, it doesn't matter what you won or didn't win or whatever in high school. But when you're part of a state championship, and we were part of a state championship together at our school, it was the first one in school history. I mean, I think that's just something no one can ever take from you. And, you'll always be the first one. And so, and that's what we try to talk to our guys about here. I mean, we have a chance to do something special every year. And our school hasn't won a state championship. And so that's something we're shooting for. And whenever our guys do it, they'll be the first one ever in school history to do it. And so, I just think with that comes just a connection that you have with your coaches and players for forever.
And that is the beauty of this game that we all love, obviously. Hewitt-Trussville in Alabama, one of the top teams in the country, top region, and you were talking about a first championship there. And we all know that you can't win a championship without a defense that at least stops somebody more than you're scoring. So tell me a little bit about your defensive unit this year.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. I think our guys have had a really good off season, a good summer. Again, I think even in the 7-on-7 world, which is tough on a defense sometimes, we saw guys get out there making a lot of plays. We even had a few guys with some slight position changes that just really needed some work. We actually hired a new DC this year. Sean Talsman is his name. He's done a great job. He's been a defense coordinator at Clay Chalkville the last 2 years and won a lot of games and championships. And so we're excited about what he's done. So, so that's been something that's been a little different for us just because it's just different. When you have new people on either side of the ball, kids have to learn things, and learn terminology and all those things again. So, they've had to go back and relearn some different stuff there, but it's been really, really good. Again, it's about playing fast and I think your guys play ball, and that's what our guys want to do. We want them to, by the time we get to Friday night, we want them to play and just let it rip. And so, but we've got some really big weapons on defense. You got to start with Malachi Moore. I mean, he's definitely one of the top leaders on this team. He's a DB that's committed to Alabama. And had a great year for us last year. Played corner for the most part last season, and definitely was a big-time weapon over there. I mean, people got to where they wouldn't even try to throw to his side. This year we've moved him around. He's a guy that one of the guys I was talking about. I mean, we're playing him at some safety spots. Sometimes he'll roll down a little bit, almost like an outside linebacker star position. And so, but he's a guy that can do a lot of different things. He's a guy we want to move around. He'll also play some offense. He's been a weapon on offense before. Won't be over there a ton necessarily, but you got to start with him as our leader, just because of the game experience that he has. He's a guy that's been starting 3 years in a row, and it's just a really big time player for us. Our D line we feel like is a strength. We don't feel like we have a ton of depth on the D-line, really, but we feel like the guys we have a chance to be really, really good. And, you got to start with Eric Taylor, who's a guy that committed to LSU, just a few weeks back, had maybe right around a month ago, maybe at this point, Eric committed there. And Eric's a guy that's 6'5", 295, 300 pounds, and just an incredible athlete. He's the best athlete I've ever seen that I've ever coached at that size, and just a guy that's very, very explosive, and I don't even think he's hit, even close to what his potential is going to be long term one day. And so we're excited about him. He'll probably play our nose position, but he's a guy that we can move around to do a few different things. Played even a little bit of defensive end for us last year, so he's a big weapon for us. We have a senior linebacker, Sam Jones. Is a guy that we think is going to be really, really good. Again, started for us last year, and we'll need his senior leadership this year. Trey Washington is another guy on defense. Trey was a DB, and he played corner for us last year. He'll play corner for us again this year. But Trey's very similar to Malachi Moore. And I think they're very, very similar players going into their junior year. He's got a few offers so far, but I think it's just a matter of time before Trey blows up. Just on the college scene. But Trey's also one of the best players we have on offense. And, we just got to figure out ways to get him on offense more. Again, we're not going to ask him to do that every single play, but Trey's kind of the guy that can do everything: punt return, kick return. Again, can play running back. He's even played some quarterback. I mean, he's a guy that can take some snaps and do some different things. So really excited about Trey and what he can do for the entire team. Justice Finkley's a guy that's going to be an upcoming sophomore, and he's 6'2", about 250. Already has SEC offers. LSU's offered him, Tennessee's offered him, and just to got on the field last year. He was one of those. He didn't necessarily start, but he got on the field. At least got his feet wet last year in some varsity games, and the sky's the limit for him. So anytime you can start with two big time D linemen like that, then you have a chance to be pretty good on defense. And so just like offensive linemen, it starts up front on defense, and so we really think those guys have a chance to be really, really good. And, our linebacking core is something we're excited about. We have several guys back that played last year in that position. And so Mike Edwards is a guy. Mike's a big 6'2", 195, 200-pound kid that will be an outside linebacker type guy. He's a guy that you can bring off the edge and almost play like an end position. He's really, really good. Starts on our basketball team, so he's that kind of a kid. He's super athletic. Landon Bergeson is a guy that started for us last year. Clint Simpson, those are both guys that started games for us at linebacker last year. And so we really feel good about 5 or 6 guys for those, really 3 or 4 linebacker spots that we have, depending on what we're on defense. So we feel like that's a good position for us. That guys got a lot of playing time last year, and even some that didn't start got a lot of playing time. And so we're excited about our defense. It's just different. It's going to be a little bit, it's a different system. So our guys have learned that, but we're excited about it.
Yeah, a little freshness. Never hurt anybody. Josh Floyd on the line. Hewitt-Trussville, one of the top teams in the country, just outside of our top 125 heading into the 2019 season. And because of the region you play in, you can make some hay because the algorithm's all about what you do on the field. We hinted at it earlier. We talked about it before. The Class 7A, Region 3 there, the Hoovers, the Thompsons, you guys making noise. Somebody else, I can't remember who was in the top 100 last year, but one of the best in the country, and I think it keeps getting better. You guys are getting better, obviously, and all that. Explain to the people around that haven't heard you on the show before how good and how tough it is to play in that region week in and week out.
I mean, you said, it's one of the toughest regions in the country, and it's a lot of fun to be a part of it, but it's also not fun. It's something you got to bring it every single week, and it's just something that challenges our kids, challenges our coaches, and so there's never a boring week by any means. And so it legitimately is one of those where anybody can beat anybody. But it's the best it's been. I feel like this is my 6th year in the state of Alabama, and all at Hewitt-Trussville, and I feel like it's better than it's ever been. I think last year it was really, really tough. Again, I think it just keeps getting better. Really, 5 or 6 years ago was my first year here. Was the first year they did 7A, and when you look at the playoffs and how that works, us and Hoover are the only ones that have made the playoffs every year. Just because the way it works in Alabama, you take the top 4 from our 18 region, and we had good teams not make the playoffs last year because of just because of how tough the region was. And so, our school, Hewitt-Trussville, and then Thompson was an up-and-comer too. 5 or 6 years ago, Thompson wasn't doing anything, and now you've got us and Thompson that have really come on the scene the last 4 or 5 years. And give those guys credit; they've done a good job. And we've tried to build our program to be one of the best. And so, I think you have that plus Hoover. You're talking about some of the best, at least the last 5 years. You're talking about some of the best schools in the entire state that are all playing right here, right down the road from each other. And so, if you can get in the playoffs, then you've got a chance to do something because I think you're battle tested, and you've been in some big games, some big moments, and so it makes it a lot of fun. But it's obviously a huge challenge as well. That's why the depth matters. That's why some things you can't control, like injuries. You hope and pray that you stay healthy, and those things matter, when you're in a league like this.
And I know when I saw you in the spring, speaking of challenges, some of the challenge as you get better is trying to fill out a schedule. Obviously, you've got your region stuff there, and I know you've got you open with a team right down the road, Pinson Valley. They've won a championship or two, obviously. At least Bo Nix is gone, I guess. That's a good thing for you. And then you've got a challenge in Georgia. Tell me a little bit about the non-league schedule, and tell the people out there. We do have so many coaches. Maybe they can empathize with you a little bit, because the teams that are good, it's not easy to find non-league games.
It's really not. I mean, it's definitely something that's been challenging to find games at times. But, and we started really, I guess, 2016 was our first year to really play an out-of-state team. And 2015, actually, and then we came back and did a return trip there. But I think it's something that's been a lot of fun. And because we've been able to give our kids an experience, we were able, last year we played in Atlanta. We played a team up there. A few years before that we played in Nashville. And so I think it's just about giving your kids a great experience. And I want to give our guys the best high school experience they can ever have. I mean, last year we went to Atlanta, and the Falcons happened to be in town. So we were there on a Thursday night. So we went and watched the Falcons play a preseason game. We took the kids to the College Football Hall of Fame, and we were fortunate to win a game, and we were able to come back with a win. So, it prepared us for our real season, for as far as our region play. But, our kids still talk about that experience, when we have kids from all types of backgrounds and all types of homes. And I mean, that may be the only time those kids ever get to go to an NFL game or ever go to the College Football Hall of Fame. So, that's been a big part of what we do here as a program. We just want to make it a really fun experience for these kids that they can create memories. But back on our actual schedule this year, we're playing Pinson Valley. You mentioned, Bo Nix was a heck of a player. Coach Nix does a great job there. I mean, we actually even coached together back in January in the Under Armour All-American game. So I spent a lot of time with Coach Nix, and the only problem is he has another son that's going to be the quarterback next year. And so they just keep coming over there. So, that he's going to be a typical coach's kid, going to be smart, and he doesn't have as much experience, obviously, as Bo had, but we know he's going to be really good. Pinson's won the last two 6A state championships, and they're they're a scary team because they have so many athletes. They've got some big time players. They have a junior corner right now that's the number one corner in the country in a lot of people's rankings, and so it'll be a huge challenge for us. It's going to be here at our place, so it's going to be a lot of fun, man. There'll probably be 10,000 people here, or more. I think it'll be a lot of fun, and it'll be a really good game for our community to be a part of. And whatever happens, we'll both go our separate ways, and they'll go to 6A and we'll go to 7A, and see how it prepares us from there. But they're just like us. I mean, they can't find a lot of games either. So we had both played in a little ESPN deal last year, but that was a 1-year deal. So this became available for us to do a 1-year deal. We're the 2nd-year deal of our game from Atlanta. We're playing West Forsyth, who was a 7A team out of Atlanta. So we had a great game with last year. Ended up beating them. I think it was 38-30. Had a really good physical game. They're very similar. West Forsyth is very similar to some of the teams that we have in our region. Even some of the ones that maybe we haven't talked about that are just really, really good physical football teams, super well coached. And, so again, we feel like it gets us ready for our region play. But we went there last year. West Forsyth's coming back over here this year. They're a team. They're a playoff team. I think 1 or 2 deep in the playoff. I know they won 1 game in the playoffs, maybe 2 last year in Georgia. So again, you're talking about a playoff 7A playoff Georgia team. So that's a big time football opponent for us, and gets us ready, gives our kids a great experience, but it also gets us ready for region play.
Yeah, and
if we can survive it, you got to stay healthy. It's a challenge. So.
That is the good Lord upstairs has to make sure that you stay away from that injury bug. Josh Floyd here. We're going to wrap up on the podcast with one last question. By the way, I'm very proud that last year's High School Football America National Player of the Year, which we do in cooperation with the National High School Coaches Association, was Bo Nix. Very proud to have a young man from Alabama being our National Player of the Year. And Coach, as we sit here a couple of weeks away from camp and all that, what are some of the things that you feel you guys have to do right in fall camp to get yourself ready to get into that season and have a shot at trying to get to a state championship game?
Well, I mean, first of all, everybody knows our goal is state championship. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, but it starts with a region championship. That gives us the best chance to be successful in the playoffs. At least gives you, puts you in the best spot that you can possibly be in. But, really, once we start August the 5th in real practice, I mean, we don't talk that way. I mean, I tell our guys every day, you're going to get better, you get worse. I think you get worse by developing bad habits, and so we're going to try to get better every single day. And so, we're not. That being said, we're not worried about championship games and all that yet. So we just worry about getting a little better one game at a time. And as far as the fall camp goes, special teams is a big deal. That's always a concern for a coach early on in the season, just because sometimes it's hard to get those looks in practice. With a great punt returner, a great kick returner, it's just hard to sometimes see that in practice as much. So that's something we'll really harp on a lot. But we actually lost our kicker punter last year, Parker Coleman. He was the guy that ended up going to Southern Miss. He broke all kinds of records here and was a 4-year starter for us. So, we have two guys that we feel good about our kicker and punter, but it's just a matter of, again, guys that haven't played a lot of football, and they'll both be sophomores this year. So special teams, I would say, right off the bat would be something that we're really going to try to, just get more comfortable with those situations here early on. And, you want to stay healthy, obviously, in August. But, we're excited about where we're at. It's just, I think it'll be fun to watch this team. I think, we're not as seasoned and not as many veterans as we had last year at the beginning of the year. But I think you'll see this team grow throughout the year. And I think it'll be a lot of fun to watch.
And we look forward to watching that growth, and hopefully that algorithm by the end of the year has you highly ranked, like you've been in the past here with High School Football America. Coach, appreciate your friendship. Great job of breaking down this team. Got a lot of kids in there, and we wish you nothing but success this year.
Oh, thanks so much, man. I appreciate you having me on here, and really do appreciate all that you do for high school football, man. It really goes a long way and makes it fun for kids and fans and coaches, and so we just want to thank you for that.
We appreciate that. Thanks a lot. That'll do it for now. Tune in tomorrow with another preview. I'm Jeff Fisher of High School Football America.